Welcome to Drew Code Sports Talk, everybody. My name is Cody Johnson. I am your host for this program. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube or listening to us wherever you get your podcasts, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Please follow us on the podcast networks if you want to listen to us on audio. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am coming at you with a brand new episode, and I will be joined by a special guest shortly. I did want to say, though, Drew will not be joining me because he has school commitments, and I believe his team has a game today. So he is ultra busy, but he sends his love, and he misses everybody. And I miss him. So we had poker night, and he says hello. He wanted me to say he sends his well regards to everybody. However, though, I had to call in the big guns and say, hey, man, look, I need some help. I need a co-host for the moment. And as he's flexing on his little mini screen right now, I need these big muscles right now to help lift up the show. And so I called in a friend. I said, Michael, buddy, I need you, man. I know that you're already running a successful podcast network, but I said, Michael, save me, man. I just need somebody to share the screen with me and to share the laughs. And so, Michael, you're gracious enough to join me. And I appreciate you for joining me, my friend. Welcome.
Mini screen for mini muscles, but it's good to be back. This is the three-peat.
This is three-peat, man.
Of me being on here. So I'm excited. Maybe we call this the Drew Code Sports Mic Talk.
Hey, we might have to change up a name or two if you keep coming on. It might have to be some sort of three-way thing happening here. But although I will say you've been super gracious enough to invite me on Out of Pocket, so it might have to be Out of Pocket and Drew Code or something, because as often as I'm on there, it feels like we're kind of got this interconnection thing going on. But man, I appreciate you giving me your time. I know back home on your neck of the woods, it's a bit late over there, so you giving me your time, I'm really happy about and really gracious or grateful for you. So how was your holidays, man? I know you and I have chatted a little bit. The audience might not have seen you since then. What's new in the world of Michael?
Bro, our holidays were great. Got to spend Christmas with some loved ones. New Year, I rang it in at an AEW Dynamite event.
Really?
They did Fight for the Fallen in Asheville, North Carolina for Hurricane Helene relief. And my favorite tag team is FTR, and my favorite wrestler that I have never been able to see, and I've missed them like 4 times in a row, is Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, now known as Cope. Yep. And dude, I was on cloud 10 for a week. That's fun. I loved it. I'm so excited that I finally got to see him and got to high five him and have a good conversation with his wife.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. That's dope. By the way, before we continue, Jason, shout out from three from deep. Wow. I'm so sorry, Jason. Forgive me for that, my friend. Anyways, he is joining us, you guys. He is also part of the Boom Broadcast family. He's got a really fun podcast, and a little spoiler alert, he might be joining the show sometime in the near future. I know that him and I have been messaging each other back and forth, and he's a ton of fun. And we did Out of Pocket earlier today, of course. And so if anyone is missing that, it is on Michael's network on YouTube. So if you guys are there, go check it out. But Michael, so you rang in the new year. Did you have any New Year's resolutions that you are still working on or have kept so far?
So I don't know, man. It's hard because it's like, I look back at some New Year's resolutions and some I've like completed, and then others are like, wow, I forgot this pretty quickly. So I guess my my New Year's resolution is to keep doing this, keep having fun, keep the passion ignited, and stay the course.
That's good, man. See, I was going to say something silly like, oh yeah, I've started going back to the gym, and here you come in with a nice little gym of like, yeah, I'm just going to stay true to who I am. And like, oh, this guy always has like a really good remark. I guess that works too. Like, yeah, you know, be true to who you are, I guess is a good one. But
I do need to get a gym membership now that it's January. They're usually cheaper this month.
They're usually busy right around this month. So you might want to wait till February or March. Those that, you know, ended their resolutions pretty early, I'm sure you can get in later.
What if I get the membership now while it's like cheaper and then start going in March?
Well, maybe because then you would forget that you got it and you'd be like, why am I paying whatever gym, you know, this much money? I haven't gone yet. Oh yeah, that's right. My plan was to go later. Cause who knows, maybe maybe boom kicks off and now you're too busy to go to the gym. Now it's like, I can't even do push-ups in my room because it's so busy, you know?
Hey, actually, how much would it cost for me to do push-ups in my room?
It's my favorite 4-letter F word, free.
Nice.
Anyways, man. Well, that's awesome. Is there anything new and exciting with Boom happening in the near future that the audience can be expecting? I didn't want to throw this at you at the last minute. I mean, I've got you fresh right now, but is there anything exciting in Boom's immediate future?
Well, we are working on some things. We might be expanding one of our shows here soon, so you'll want to keep pace on that. But dude, this is a huge team. Jason's in the comments, 3 from deep. He and Wayne do Sideline Savants, which is a fantasy football show where we're out of the fantasy football season. We have wrestling podcasts. I have Man Behind the Mic that I'll be doing more episodes on now that we're in the new year. Chris has a baseball podcast, Dugout Debrief. Shane has Quick Hits. Mouthing Off with Mike started his new season of Nightcaps after Raw and SmackDown, and both of those are somewhere around 3 hours now. So, I mean, it just means a whole lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
And I swear, I always miss 6 different shows. Like Sean dropped It Stinks today, which is a TV review. So it's not just sports. So if you're a sports fan, this is for you. But also, if you like TVs or movies, or he reviewed a book today, the goal is to have something for everybody and make everybody feel welcome.
That's definitely the truth, man. And again, you guys can catch all that on YouTube, and all of their stuff is linked in the episode card down below. But Michael, let's dive into some NFL questions, man. As you know, we've had a crazy week, not only of wild card news about head coaches, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the show, but I've got some just questions that are kind of lingering about players or teams or whatnot. And I'm just curious because you're a really gracious host where you allow your guests to talk a lot. And sometimes I'm not sure what Mike's really thinking. So I'm really hoping that you give us your intake on this one. Okay. The one I'm really curious about is, the wild card game that happened. I think a lot of people might have not been surprised to see that the Vikings lost to the Rams wild card Monday. And Sam Darnold, argument could be made that it was the way he played maybe cost him the game, or maybe it was the Rams that just played even a better game. But I'm curious, with the performance that you saw and how the Vikings looked, do you think the Vikings should re-sign Sam Darnold, or should Sam Darnold go to another team?
Well, first of all, I don't even know half the time what Michael's thinking. So we'll be surprised either way with what I say. No, I feel like Sam Darnold had a really tough critic on social media because, I mean, of course, it's the playoffs. Everybody watches the playoffs. Nobody cares about watching the regular season. Sam Darnold exceeded expectations. And to go 14-3, he would have had a home game. But instead, this game gets not only to LA, but moved to Arizona because of the wildfires. But he helped this team surprisingly overachieve. I mean, when JJ McCarthy, he was supposed to be the starter and he went down, and everybody's like, oh, doom and gloom. And I predicted Minnesota to finish dead last in this division and to be not only second in your division, but have the second best record in the entire conference. I don't pin that on Sam Darnold. I actually give credit to Sam Darnold for everything he was able to do. Now, I put more blame of that on the offensive line that gave up, 9 sacks? It was 9 sacks.
9 sacks,
and it tied a playoff record. So give credit to the Rams defense, or look at that Minnesota offensive line and say, hey, we might need to do something about this. And I agree, Jason, Sam should stay. And if you keep changing quarterbacks, then you start messing with the chemistry. I'd love to see Sam Darnold come back, compete with JJ McCarthy, see how McCarthy's doing now that he's going to come back from injury, and see if you just sit McCarthy another year and, play Darnold until the wheels fall off. But I would definitely keep Darnold in that building.
Yeah, here's the thing is some of the, at least analysts that I'm seeing where they're basically saying you can't keep Sam Darnold or it was his fault. Here's the thing. He got the Vikings, to your credit, to a, 14-3 record. The 4 losses that the Vikings did have, obviously the 4th one being to the Rams that sent them home. The 4 losses that they had were only to 2 teams, the Rams or the Lions, which they are in the running in the NFC playoffs right now, and either one of them could be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl at some point is a potential. But I agree, like with the way that Sam Darnold played, how well he played, and the way that the NFL can be with, is this young quarterback even going to be successful, or is this team going to be successful with, starting a young rookie first year? I'm thinking like, look, you see that Sam Darnold can run your offense, can be effective, like get you as close that you need to in terms of the playoffs and keep you in the running. Maybe a little bit of failure helps him get a little bit better. Who knows? But with JJ McCarthy with his knee injury, how prepared he's going to be next season, how ready to go will he be offensively? So why not keep Sam Darnold for a couple of years? Like maybe sign him to a 3-year deal, guarantee 2 years on it. And then after those 2 years, okay, JJ McCarthy should be ready by then. And then you should be able to start him. You can treat it like a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers situation without all the Awastika that's in the air, of course. But, I think with the Vikings having Sam Darnold be an effective quarterback, starting quarterback, of course, that's huge. So why would you let him go? However, though, I do think that the media might put pressure on the Vikings to like shop him around to see what else they can get, because I'm imagining they may look at the game performance and see, Sam Darnold holding the ball too long, whether all the sacks were his fault or not, but, holding the ball maybe longer than he should have. They may look at that and say, like, maybe he's not ready for the big time. And crazier things have happened in terms of like teams not, re-signing a guy or trading or whatever the case is. But I think Sam Darnold played himself into at least a new contract to stay with the Vikings, or if not going somewhere else, he will get paid by somebody else. I think he's played that well, regardless of this performance. It doesn't look great. It's in the playoffs, but it's a good performance, I think.
It's a good performance. They could also look at getting another wide receiver because Jefferson, I mean, they had the blueprint from that Detroit game. Like they were double teaming Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. He's okay, but if he is just the guy you need to rely on, it's not going to get done. So maybe even getting a wide receiver, as well as offensive lineman in this draft. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of wide receiver, kind of transitioning into another team who has a wide receiver diva, so to speak, in George Pickens. I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously Pittsburgh had they showed up to the wild card game, but didn't play very well against the Ravens and kind of got curb stomped, for lack of a better word. And, a lot of people are calling for Mike Tomlin's job. And I'm curious, Mike, do you think that these two should go their separate ways? Do you think it's time for both parties to move on? What's your thoughts on that?
Dude, if Mike Tomlin wasn't the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, do you know what we would be talking about? Are the Steelers going to take Shedeur Sanders? Are they going to take Cam Ward? Are they going to take Travis Hunter? Because they were going to have a top 3 draft pick without Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. Now, granted, he had Ben Roethlisberger for most of his coaching career, but when you look and see, he had Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett and Justin Fields / outside of his prime, Russell Wilson. Mike Tomlin would slap the taste out of Jason's mouth for that comment.
He's saying the team that he coached this season is the weakest.
My bad.
Yeah,
I thought he said weakest Mike Tomlin. Sorry about that, Jason. My condolences. If you want to see me next time, you can slap me across the face for out of pocket.
It's a long commute though for Jason, so he may just show up and just body slam you on out of pocket.
You can do it virtually. Sorry, Jason. My bad. But that would be jumping the gun. Like I did in that sense, that would be jumping the gun for Pittsburgh to dismiss Mike Tomlin. Because, I get it. You could get like a fresh voice in there. He's like lost 5.
That's the greatest comment for the listener. Jason, again, host from 3 from Deep, put in 18 years is a long time to eat the same cereal. Man, that is actually a very good comment. That's really hard to stump. So kudos, Jason.
Look at the coaches. I mean, Mike McCarthy would probably be the only coach on the market right now that you could potentially replace Mike Tomlin with. And McCarthy might want to be a Bear. McCarthy might want to be a Saint. I'm sure we'll, get into that, sometime down the road. But Dude, you cannot dismiss Mike Tomlin. He overachieved with this roster. He's a good coach.
I think what's difficult is you and I are coming from a fan base that literally is looking for a coach with the same 18 years, eating the same cereal. But you know what? That cereal gets you at least into the wild card or in the running for the wild card year in and year out. Like for a Raiders fan and for a Cowboys fan, Michael, I'm sure you and I can agree on this. That is like what we're trying to aspire to. Just get us into the dance, give us an opportunity and see like what can happen. I do think that what doesn't help is Mike Tomlin does let a lot of players that impact the game for his team in a positive way affect the locker room. And unfortunately, that is a huge knock against him. You look at George Pickens, you look at AB, Devontae Perfect, I think is another good one. Deontay Johnson recently was literally cut the fourth time in 10 months, so, and he was originally a Steeler. So I think there's no doubt that Mike Tomlin can galvanize a team, get the best out of them. But I guarantee you this, if the Steelers were to let go of Mike Tomlin today, 31 other teams would be blowing up their phone. And I would almost venture outside of 49ers, and we'll even say the Vikings, remove those two teams, but everybody else would probably be calling Mike Tomlin to get him in, and they'll fire whatever head coach that they just hired, because Mike Tomlin is a culture changer. And say what you want about the players or how they don't show up or whatever, Mike Tomlin gets them ready to go. And how do you just let that go? What do you got to replace them with? Even with all due respect to Mike McCarthy, even if that's what you did, can we even guarantee the same chance that he will never go under 500 like Mike Tomlin has done in 18 seasons? 18 seasons that he's been in the NFL long enough that if some kids weren't born yet, they are now old enough to be adults in this world. That's how long he's had a winning season in the NFL. So for me, it's hard to just say, oh yeah, let him go and that's it. But I would say in a couple of seasons, if Pittsburgh is still like, oh, we need a change of voice or whatever, and they're not happy with it, maybe Mike Tomlin walks out on his own, because he's like, listen, I've done all this for you guys. I've won you all these AFC North crowns. I've gotten you guys to the playoffs, and you guys are still ungrateful. Maybe he might change scenery from there. But it's crazy right now that the Pittsburgh Steelers are wanting a new head coach when they just got taken out of the wild card. So I don't know, man. I wish we had that problem.
Yeah, for real. If Tomlin becomes available tomorrow, I hope Dallas immediately jumps on it.
He would be perfect for you guys. If there was a coach to fill in for you guys, it would be Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin would definitely maybe even help put Jerry back in his place, respectively, I would say. And yeah, Jason, I agree with you, dude. Again, for the listener, Jason commenting, Mike leaving on his own would probably be the only way he leaves. I agree. That'd be the only way that happens. It's not Pittsburgh that would have him fired. It'd be Mike that leaves for sure. Transitioning now to we're going to stay on the Steelers a little bit, but I just wanted to throw a little something at you. So we can both agree that maybe quarterback for the Steelers wasn't the strongest. Mike Tomlin, again, made a bold decision by putting in Justin Fields, or, having Justin Fields start. And then after week 6, had Russell Wilson come in. And we can probably say that had the quarterback play been a little bit better, maybe they have a fighting chance. So I'm actually curious, Michael, and I was thinking of this and I saw it, that what if Aaron Rodgers came back for one more season and he was like, you know what? I think I can do something in Pittsburgh. Do you think, one, that would be a good match? And 2, do you even think that the marriage between Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers would be a successful one?
Bro, I mean, how do you go? No disrespect intended when I say this. Maybe just a little. Maybe just a little. How do you go from Russell Wilson, who had a 95.6 passer rating this year, to Aaron Rodgers, who had a 90.5 passer rating? And I could start going down all the stats, but I don't think anybody wants me to, because Aaron Rodgers,
sleeping in a cave.
Aaron Rodgers statistically had a worse season than Russell Wilson did. And Rodgers, 2 years removed from the Achilles injury, and how much control he wants over a locker room and over who's on the roster, dude, stick a fork in Aaron Rodgers. Like,
yeah,
he's done, like, right into the sunset. Unless Minnesota just wants to give him the Brett Favre route and bring him in to replace Sam Darnold or whatever. I mean, just call it a day, Aaron Rodgers. Pittsburgh, yeah, the answer isn't Russell Wilson. The answer might not even be Justin Fields. The answer might be 2 years from now, but please don't pick up Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers will show up in the Hall of Fame by some way, which is kind of weird because I've now kind of gotten into this thing where, like, I know that Aaron Rodgers is a good quarterback. I've seen him throw the football. Would I say that he's a Hall of Famer with one Super Bowl? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it does help that he has a multitude of MVPs, but still, like, you hear all the strife that he had in Green Bay, the collapse in New York. That's tough. Pittsburgh, I don't know, is the destination I'd see him in if he continues to play. Jason's going to hate this. I think the Giants would make more sense only because it's still in New York and he likes New York. And, you know, he really doesn't have to go anywhere. He's just right there. But I don't know if New York wants to have more drama attached to them because I think their GM is already doing that for them because, no offense, Jason, but your guy on camera said that, you know, we shouldn't sign Saquon, and he walked right over to the arch nemesis and signed with them, and it's kind of gotten him there. So that's what I would say. But, you know, I think the Steelers, in my opinion, should stick and invest in Justin Fields. I think would be a good one. And I agree, Jason. No, please. I'm not trying to wish that on you, but it's possible.
I'll wish it on him.
Just like it's possible that the Raiders could sign Aaron Rodgers. It is possible. We need a quarterback. Not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. Would I want that? No.
Bro, whoa. Could you imagine Aaron Rodgers getting Devontae Adams out of Vegas to come to New York just for Aaron Rodgers to sign with the Raiders?
Yeah. If I was Devontae, I'd be upset. But, you know, whatever. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know if Tom Brady wants the circus that is Aaron Rodgers, like, in the building. And I told this to Drew, like, he brought this up, I think, when we posed like an Aaron Rodgers question. This is like back in November, I think, where we did ask this question, like, where do we think? And I said the Cowboys would be a logical one just because if they're looking for a win now, maybe they trust Aaron Rodgers over Dak. You know, he brought up the Raiders, and I was like, look, I'd rather not him go to the Raiders because I don't know if I want that kind of distraction. It's already bad enough that we have him going on Pat McAfee saying weird stuff that his teammates are going to have to answer for. And it's one thing to do it in the New York market. I do not know if Vegas is going to want to be down for that. I don't know if Max Crosby wants to sign up for that. Like, the heart and soul of the team getting asked obscene questions like that, he may get tired of that really fast. So that's why, like, Vegas is probably not the destination that Rodgers would fit into because of that. So, yeah, very interesting. Speaking of another quarterback, and ironically in my same division, I think we both saw that Justin Herbert did not have a great wild card showing, threw 4 interceptions. And, you know, for as much praise as he has gotten in the regular season, his second time in the wild card, again, has lost it. Now, granted, this was the first year for Jim Harbaugh and this team. We saw that they just didn't have enough weapons to kind of combat against the Texans. Their defense put it on them, for sure. But it makes me wonder, though, and Michael, I'm wondering from you too, and I think you answered this on your show, but do you think that Justin Herbert is elite?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Are you kidding me? I mean, I'm not trying to be like that shouting head because I just feel adamantly about this.
Okay.
And I did share this on Out of Pocket. Like, I don't understand how we put Justin Herbert in this elite category because every other person you ask, like, how do you define elite? And they say postseason success.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Justin Herbert has no postseason success in 5 years. And you're like, oh, he doesn't have a team around him. Well, at one point he had Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and a really good defense. And then this year he had Jim Harbaugh, who has had success everywhere he's been. Whether it's Stanford or the 49ers or the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh's had success. Defense wins championships in the NFL, and you had the #1 defense this year. And what do? You go to a Houston team that has a second-year quarterback in a sophomore slump who is on their third-string wide receiver when it comes to, Stephon Diggs out, Tank Dell out. I mean, you were relying on Nico Collins, who's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But then like Robert Woods outside of his prime, and Deontay Johnson's doing whatever he wants to on the sidelines. And you throw 4 interceptions in a playoff game. If your name was Dak Prescott, no, if you had the star on the side of your helmet, you could have thrown 2 interceptions and you'd be ridiculed. So why have we went this entire week without anyone calling Justin Herbert out? Because he's not what are we deciding that on? If Justin Herbert is elite, Trevor Lawrence is elite.
Well, he did beat Justin Herbert, I think, a couple of wild cards ago.
Yeah. Boom. There you go. I mean, because if we're thinking okay, Herbert came in with all the physical tools. So Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has had less of a team around him. And definitely Doug Pearson is worse than Jim Harbaugh. No offense to Pearson, win a former Super Bowl, but I would take Jim Harbaugh 10 out of 10 days. It's crazy to me that we just give Justin Herbert a pass, and I don't know why. I have no idea why we are so kind to Charger quarterbacks, because we did the same thing with Phillip Rivers. But what I'll say this, Phillip Rivers actually put his team in position to go to an AFC championship game and have postseason success. Justin Herbert hasn't done that. I don't know. I don't get it. Are you just enamored with playing with him on Madden, or what's the deal about him? He was a quarterback at Oregon, and Oregon quarterbacks and Pac-12 quarterbacks just kind of falter out anyways. I mean, there's nothing attaching me to Justin Herbert. And am I saying he's not a star in this league? No. I'm saying he's probably middle of the pack, and that's not elite.
See, this is what's tough, because this is elite is a very and maybe it's me, I should maybe not phrase it in elite as so loosely, because I've heard several top 10, top 5, and Justin Herbert is squarely in there, usually 4 or 3, or I've even seen him high as number 2, depending on who's doing the listing. And I think what's tough is talent wise, there's no doubt he can throw the football, and he can throw and pinpoint wherever he wants to go. And another thing too is we used to have these fellow podcasters that would collab with us. From the Backseat was their name. Ethan was a known Chargers fan, and he would always defend the Chargers, even when they had Brandon Staley and when Herbert was second year or rookie and he had a really good showing. But here's the thing, Justin Herbert has immense talent. No one has taken away his ability to throw the football. No one's taken away his ability of how he does help his team. But when you need to show up the most, when it matters the most, is also just as important. And what's tough is if you are kind of the reason why your team doesn't succeed, I agree. I don't know how you can then be in the elite conversation. I think we can agree that elite quarterbacks are Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson at this point, because he's been in the playoffs for several seasons of his career. Justin Herbert only been there twice, all things considered, with head coaching changes and all that. But I was expecting more. I thought the Chargers were favored going into that game because of the coach, because of the quality of play from the quarterback, and it just wasn't there. So it's hard. I would say not elite, just because to be elite, you need to have playoff wins. You need to step your game up. You need to take another level up when you are in that elite territory. Is he a very good quarterback? No doubt. But when the postseason starts, that's when you need to come alive. And I'm just not sure if he's there quite yet today. After what we saw, he has to make up a ton of ground, and he's on a road to redemption. This is his what is it? The face arc to get him back on top. He's going to have to do that in order to get back into the gracious of, oh yeah, he's top 5, he's top whatever elite player, because right now he's not.
And also with Justin Herbert, for a quarterback to be elite or even be considered, I won't always hold their team success against them because you never know what they're surrounded with. Like there's all different metrics,
Mm-hmm.
do you match up well with a certain team or vice versa? You probably need to be in consideration for MVP at some point. You need to like put the team on your back at some points. You need like little nuggets to kind of supplement, your team's success or lack thereof. But even just like close playoff games, I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But 20 points to Houston, who was
Mm-hmm.
struggling before they met you.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't even understand. Like, I just don't understand because CJ Stroud didn't have to do much to beat them because, Justin Herbert was just throwing the ball away.
All CJ Stroud had to do is protect the ball, and he did that. I will say, though, it was funny that you mentioned Phillip Rivers because I was about to say Justin Herbert is like the modern day Phillip Rivers. He's super talented, he can throw the ball, but when it matters the most, he's not quite there yet, which is kind of bad to say because Phillip Rivers still won in the playoffs, though. Like wild card, even divisional rounds. I think a couple of times he helped them get to the conference championship game, lost to Tom Brady or the Patriots or, any other team. But, Phillip Rivers, in all intents and purposes, his play elevated. And, we just need to see that from Justin. Now, granted, I think he's we just finished his fifth season. So we've got time. But I would say, though, I'm not saying the clock is ticking, but like he definitely needs to show that he's not an overpaid, above average quarterback. Because then to me, that's like Trevor Lawrence territory. And I'm almost on the fence saying that Trevor Lawrence is like a low performing number 1 overall pick. And that's not great. So Jason did come in here with a hot comment, though, saying that the Chargers should trade Herbert on draft day move. That's an interesting one.
I don't
see that happening, though. Like Justin Herbert would have to be given to like one of the top 3 teams to make that happen, unless they saw someone in the draft that they're so in love with that they have to have them. But I don't see that happening. But that is a bold take, though. Maybe in a couple of seasons I can see it happening.
Could also just try to get a wide receiver because Lab McConkey's the only one who can catch the ball.
I hear Deontay Johnson's available. Bo Nix is a better quarterback out of the gate. He is 3rd in his division, depending on may slide to 4th. That's a good point regarding Bo Nix. I will say, though, a rookie helping his team go into the wild card did not have a great showing as well, though. Ironically, another Oregon quarterback, but we'll see. It's kind of like now it's a battle between the 2 careers, which is kind of funny. But all right, Michael, we're going to shift gears now into your favorite conversation that I'm sure everyone has asked you. Who do you want the Cowboys to get as their next head coach? And of course, my Raiders are in the same boat, but there's about 6 other teams in here. There's your Cowboys, my Raiders, the Saints, Jags, Jets, and Bears. So 6 that are looking for a head coach. And there's been several names that have been thrown out there or rumored. So I want to play matchmaker with you. So I'm going to give you a team. You're going to tell me what head coach you think best matches that team. Are you ready to play?
I'm ready to play.
All right. Do you have the list in front of you of head coaches? Because it's quite deep. There's not going to be every head coach is not going to be filled with all these people, but you get a nice little list.
Yeah, I got a list. I'll try to stick to the list in terms because you could go anywhere with some of these lists.
Yeah, I hate to say your Cowboys might get like the special coach team to some the Bears or something. I don't know.
Or Jason Witten or something.
That that wouldn't be the most shocking thing. I got to be honest. Like if you tell me if I get an alert that says Tony Romo has been named head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, would not shock me at all. Like, in fact, on par.
Whoa. Romo, I could see ish.
Okay.
I said that when he was a player. I was like, he could totally be a coach. And then seeing him in the broadcast booth, I'm like, he could totally be a coach. Uh-huh. But Jason Witten, it would be like the most JJ Redick move of the NFL.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so we're going to start off with a team that neither one of us have a dog in the fight. We're going to go with the New Orleans Saints. Who do you think is the best coach for the Saints?
Dude, for the New Orleans Saints, it's tough. That's the one that I'm like, I'm a little halfy on. Okay. Because I think there's a guy who's between 2 teams, either the Bears or the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
He's my former head coach, but I don't think he goes to the Saints. I'm I'm going to do Steve Spagnuolo.
Okay, that's a good one.
From the Chiefs. He's looking to get back in there. I don't know if he will, but I mean, if you look at that division with Carolina and Atlanta and Tampa Bay, like really you only need to stop the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and depend on how Carolina and Bryce Young continues to develop. Steve Spagnuolo could come in. He's got the experience being around Andy Reid. I feel like he could help the New Orleans Saints, and it could be like a really good culture fit.
It's a really good one. I'm just curious. Well, I think if I'm the Saints, I'm probably going defense because I don't have a quarterback that I can trust right now. Derek Carr's not taking a pay cut. He might not even be on the team. You have Spencer Ratliff, who was an okay player. I don't know if he's great. So they're probably in the draft to get a quarterback again in this draft. So if I had to guess, though, I do think that I see them shifting offensively. So I would say that I see Joe Brady going to the Saints. I think that would be interesting because he comes from the Bills, who has had great success offensively and establishing Josh Allen as a good quarterback and a culture around there. I would be curious to see if Joe Brady can carry the same thing over to the Saints.
And he used to be an offensive assistant in New Orleans, and also went to LSU and was a passing game coordinator. So he knows the New Orleans area really well.
Yeah, that would be a really good one. Okay, so the next one, be gentle. This is my team now. The Raiders. Who do you think is the best match for them?
So here's my
Michael, don't make me kick you off the screen.
Dude, here's my guess, right?
Okay.
Whoever goes to the Raiders is going to be the fourth best coach.
Sure. Yeah, I can accept that.
I mean, it's Andy Reid, it's Jim Harbaugh, it's Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only way you can get out of this coaching search is to get somebody who wants to be a first-time head coach. And when I say this name and I say his destination being Vegas, he probably should have taken an opening last year because there were probably some better jobs available. I have a feeling that is going to be Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. One, I think Ben Johnson is the best candidate available right now, probably other than Mike McCarthy. I feel really strongly about McCarthy being a good head coach to wherever he lands. I mean, 3 straight 12-win seasons, only time it's been done in NFL history. And then this year he had an injury-riddled season. But I feel like Ben Johnson. And I'm just hoping that if he does go to the Raiders, they give him a quarterback that he wants. And in addition to that, they let him stay. Like, do not kill this guy's confidence after a year or two. Stick with the process. See how long Andy Reid's there. See how patient they are with Sean Payton. See if Jim Harbaugh can turn Herbert around. And just see if Ben Johnson can help develop whatever quarterback you get, to where even if Ben Johnson turns out to be a bad head coach or a bad manager of the game, then you've at least developed a really good quarterback.
So I was going to say the same thing. I think Ben Johnson to the Raiders, one, it makes the most sense because the Raiders need something to excite the fan base again. We got excited about AP last year, and here's what I'll say about Raider Nation. We are also our own worst enemy. We want something. When it doesn't go how we thought it should have gone, then we hate it, like, immediately. Like, and that was what I thought was unfair about Antonio Pierce. Like, he was a fan favorite hire. He got nothing but vote of confidence from all of the other players. And then, like, when he got the job, he then wasn't given any sort of grace to, like, okay, first year we're learning on the fly, this and that and the other. So that's also, like, what's really concerning. But I think in order to rejuvenize Raider Nation, Ben Johnson has to be the head coach named, because he's the hottest name on the market right now. And that is something that would really pump back up the enthusiasm of Raider Nation. And I'm curious to see what they do GM wise, because it's going to make a difference as well, because that's going to be what their plan is for player drafting, developing, scheme, all that stuff, like culture building. That's going to go into effect as well. I think Ben Johnson's a super good fit. Here's my theory of what's been going on. The reason why I think Ben Johnson would be giving enough time to to develop his culture, like given more than 3 seasons, because any head coach in the Raiders right now hasn't lasted more than 3 seasons. But I think he'd be given more time, because here's what I think happened. Ben Johnson had made it known that he did not want to come out of the Lions. And so then all the teams that were probably really interested in him, one being the Raiders, just said, you know what? We got a guy here that is a fan favorite that got the best out of this team. Let's see what we get with that. They gave him a shot, and whether we like it or not, they said after 1 season, it's just not working out. Now they're in the middle of the Ben Johnson sweepstakes, and strong possibility that the Raiders win the sweepstakes and get Ben Johnson. But also, too, like, you have Tom Brady kind of helping find the best fit. And I think that that's what was happening, is they were just waiting to see what Ben Johnson would do. Now that he's on the market, it's a full court press to get him. And I think that's where the Raiders are at. And that's kind of been the plan from last year, in my opinion. So that's why I think Ben Johnson would be the one I think makes the most sense to go to the Raiders. Is it the best job available? No, but he would probably be one of the higher paid coaches to start off. And he probably would be given a blank canvas to say, do what you want, because we need a complete overhaul. And I think the Raiders will give him that opportunity to do that. All right. We're going to go to your Cowboys now, Mike. Who is your coach? Who is your coach that best fits you?
So I'm only going to use one coach at a time. So I'm just going to assume that the Raiders hire Ben Johnson and he's not available for Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
We get into a really difficult position. I'm going to be honest. None of these candidates excite me. I feel like we jumped the gun a little bit with firing Mike McCarthy, which is unfortunate because I know the players wanted him back for another year. Jason's saying Kellen Moore.
Mm-hmm. That's all.
I could see it mainly because they want to like kind of sabotage Philadelphia a little bit. I talked about that briefly on Our Pocket today on Thursday. I could see Kellen Moore. I could see them trying to sabotage Washington and their growth as well by snagging Kliff Kingsbury.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to a leader, and he has connections to Texas and the Dallas Cowboys, I could see Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. I can see that. If you're serious about it, let Aaron Glenn come in, let him pick the offensive coordinator, and hopefully he sees somebody on Detroit staff that they could grab that's been mentored by Ben Johnson. So Ben Johnson taken by Vegas, and we go get Aaron Glenn. He keeps the defense kind of on pace of where they were, and just hire a really good offensive coordinator to handle the rest of the play calling duties. But this would be our first defensive coach in 15, 16 years since Wade Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people in Detroit respect him. He's gotten a lot out of an injury-riddled defense. He should have been a head coach this previous year. And so I don't see Deion Sanders making the jump. / I kind of don't want that. And Kliff Kingsbury, Kellen Moore, I could totally see those options as well. But I would prefer, at least the list you gave me, I would prefer Aaron Glenn. Is
there somebody on the list that you would think is probably a better fit, at least from what you've read around your circle?
Not really. It's slim pickings. I wish I could tell you there was a coach. Like when Jason Garrett was gone, you could tell there was a coach Dallas was going after. They went after Mike McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
They interviewed Marvin Lewis just to satisfy the Rooney Rule, which I have completely other thoughts about. But they were going after Mike McCarthy. Now it's like they just wanted to make a move, and now it's like, are you really? I definitely do not want Robert Saleh or somebody who would change this defense from man to zone, because that is not this personnel strength. You'd rip away the defense and all the pieces we have. It would be bad. So give me Aaron Glenn if Ben Johnson is not there.
Okay. So I actually have 3 three coaches in mind, and I'll narrow it down to one, but I have three coaches in mind. One of them is like to spark excitement in Cowboy land. And another one is just makes sense culturally. And then the other one is probably what I think will happen. So the first one is Deion Sanders would spark a lot of excitement in my opinion, in Dallas, because obviously previously won a Super Bowl with them. He just helped succeed. Like Colorado achieve like a great like record in a very competitive conference. And I think there's no doubt Deion Sanders is a great motivator of individuals. Now, motivator of professional athletes, I'm also apprehensive about. I don't know, only because like it's one thing to get kids like from 18 to 22 that are impressionable. It's another thing to have like, you know, grown men, so to speak, in these locker rooms that aren't playing for school pride or wanting rules about I can't wear slides to class or whatever like that. These grown men aren't going to feel that. And I think Deion understands that, which is why he's made it clear from a lot of perspectives that he loves Colorado for a reason. That's like what his heart is for. He loves, you know, giving life into young men, which is very respectable. So I think that's an option. Second one, I think, which is totally on the table, and I think it's a high consideration, would be Pete Carroll, just because of the culture that he can bring around that team to energize what they have and to kind of help build out whatever draft picks come by, whatever young players that they have. We're not talking like he's going to lead them to the Super Bowl, but he's going to turn around this mindset with how he coaches. And he did it in Seattle. I think he's going to do it at another place. And I think just like in a culture thing, that would work well for Dallas, in my opinion. Now, the whole schematic thing with the coordinators, I'm sure he's going to delegate that to somebody. So you guys probably will remain same defensive scheme. You guys may look a little different offensively, but I think Pete Carroll would be a really good culture guy for the Cowboys. Now, the player I think that they're going to go with is Kellen Moore. And I think the reason why is because there's familiarity there. He was already a coordinator with them, which, by the way, I thought if McCarthy ever stepped down, Kellen Moore was going to be the successor, which is why he was on the team. I thought he was a head coach in waiting, kind of like Jason Garrett. He just left before he was promoted. And I think Jerry Jones, you know, and again, he has a relationship with Jerry Jones, so this is going to help. And not a lot of other coaches have a positive relationship with Jerry Jones. And I think Kellen Moore ultimately will end up with the Cowboys. But that would what I would think of for your Cowboys.
I could totally see Kellen Moore. If it probably happens, I'm not too excited about it. It feels like Jerry just wants his guy.
Who knows who that guy is? That's, I think, the scarier part. All right, we're halfway through, so we got the Jets. Who do you think is the best coaching fit?
Best coaching fit of the New York Jets? Is Woody Johnson's son available? Because he just apparently runs the team.
Might as well let him coach. He knows what to do, you know?
Bro, it is... Golly.
I forgot all about that. Gosh.
Dude, I mean, it is like, who do you want to like subject to like just purgatory? I mean, it's bad. It's bad with the Jets. I'm sure there's another team here that would be very difficult. But I do want to throw a name out there. I don't know if this coach gets hired because of the lawsuit that he has against the NFL. But I could see Brian Flores, if he gets interviewed for the Jets coaching position, they want to put him there. I could totally see that happening.
Okay.
He's a defensive guy, which is my only hesitation. I could also see a Kliff Kingsbury, if they really want to revive the offense, but you would have to pretty much move on from Aaron Rodgers. That's the only way you could do it and figure out a quarterback that you feel comfortable with. But I'm gonna give it to Brian Flores. Give it to him. He was a big part of Minnesota's year, and basically do like a 1-year improve it deal with the Jets. See what it looks like. See if Rodgers is back. See the, honestly, I would almost tank if I'm the Jets this year and just be like, Flores, make sure our defense is good. start, working on Breece Hall, start working on Garrett Wilson, because we're trying to get Arch Manning here the following year. And Brian Flores just figure it out. Just wait a year.
That's a good one. I got to be honest. I don't know if Brian Flores will end up a head coach anywhere. And I think a lot of it is because of the bad name that he had when he was with Miami as well. Like Tua speaking out about how difficult it was, being coached by him. And granted, he's a great coordinator, but that doesn't mean every coordinator is a great head coach. So for the Jets, this is interesting. I almost want them to get Rex Ryan just for the entertainment.
I almost said that because I saw your list and I was like, I do not want to say Rex Ryan. That would be terrible.
First off, we can agree that's not a great choice. Out of all the lists that we have, not a great choice. But would it be the most entertaining? Yes. So
or his brother Rob,
who actually I think was a defensive consultant for the Raiders this past season, and he's been a defensive head coach for years, so he's got a name. But I'm actually curious. I would say Rex Ryan just because I want to see if he can do it. Can he turn this team around, make them look better than 4-13? I'll just go Rex Ryan. I just want to see it. Can he do it?
Hey, he got Mark Sanchez to the AFC title game, so something had to have been working.
Maybe what would suck is if the Jets do end up with the number 1 pick, get Arch Manning, and then you have Rex Ryan coaching Manning. That would be curious. I don't know if he would ruin that kid's career or not, but that would be very, very interesting in my opinion. So, okay. 2 more to go. Jaguars, best coaching match.
Dude, this is where I want to take Kliff Kingsbury.
Oh, okay.
Board. I mean, I was considering it with the Jets. I was almost considering it with Dallas as well, but this is where I take Kliff Kingsbury off the board. You have a former number 1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence. You saw what Kingsbury was able to do with Jane Daniels his rookie year. You saw what Kingsbury was able to do with Kyler Murray when healthy. I feel like if Kingsbury had a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence with all the tools and was actually given time to turn that program around, you also put him in the AFC South where it's just Houston. It's just Houston. And Indianapolis, they're in a weird spot with Anthony Richardson. Like, can he stay healthy? Does he want to play or is he going to sub himself out? And then you have Tennessee that we know will be relevant for as many years to come since Derrick Henry is no longer on the team.
Right.
I think Kliff Kingsbury, if he wanted a job, Jacksonville would be the best spot because you have your quarterback and you would be going to a pretty easy division. So Kingsbury to Jacksonville, baby. It's
a good one. I would say, and I'm only going to say this because I think this is the better fit. I think Mike McCarthy works better in the Jaguars because of Trevor Lawrence. And he's already, been in the NFL for some years and, kind of very similar to when he was hired on for the Dallas Cowboys. He had Dak Prescott already, and they've got a really nice young receiver in Brian Thompson Jr. over there. So I think Mike McCarthy going to the Jaguars is not the sexiest pick, but I think it makes the most sense in terms of as soon as he walks through the building, the Jaguars have the best head coach in the division, hands down, at least in terms of like stature and reputation. And I think that their road to prosperity is a lot easier than if Mike McCarthy goes to the Bears, because I think the fantasy of the Bears is, Caleb Williams. And that's really kind of it, like the prospect of having Caleb Williams. But I think there's more pieces that you can utilize in Jacksonville with Mike McCarthy to where he could be one of the hot teams in the AFC just because of how creative he is offensively. You have Trevor Lawrence, who he just maybe needs to tweak a couple of things. And I think that is a huge upgrade for Trevor Lawrence compared to when he had Doug Peterson, in my opinion. So I think Mike McCarthy going to the Jaguars would be a better fit.
Okay.
It's not the sexiest one, but I think it makes more sense.
I hadn't thought about that, but okay.
Sure. I know it's not everyone's favorite one, but I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to be very clear, but that's what I think would happen. Yeah. The Bears, who do you think they are going to get? This is a pivotal one too.
Here is where I get to tell you you're wrong about the Jacksonville pick.
Okay, go ahead.
Because Mike McCarthy in Chicago makes sense. I mean, yes, you have the Vikings who overachieved this year. Can they repeat that same success? I don't know. Detroit is about to lose both of their coordinators. Anytime we've seen a team lose both their coordinators, it's been bad.
Yeah.
Like they have a slump. So I expect that from Detroit, especially if they lose both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. You have the Green Bay Packers. Okay. Well, Jordan Love is there. They don't really have any weapons. Josh Jacobs was a really good high point for that year. But if you have Mike McCarthy going and playing his former team twice a year, Mike McCarthy knows the Packers-Bears rivalry like the back of his hand. He knows the cold. You give him a very young quarterback in Caleb Williams, second year in the league. You have Keenan Allen right there. You have Rome Odunze. You have DeAndre Swift. You have pieces on defense. I mean, I could totally see Chicago being a culture fit for Mike McCarthy and proving like, hey, I am one of the best coaches. I mean, you heard him like at the podium when people were asking if he thought he'd come back. Like, he's like, my record, my resume speaks for itself. Like, I am a winner. I have won wherever I have been. If he goes to the NFC North and turns around the Chicago Bears, I mean, not only is Green Bay going to, ruin the day that they let McCarthy walk out the door, but so would Dallas. So would Jerry Jones. If he sees Mike McCarthy put together like an 11-win season with Chicago after this year and get to the playoffs, Jerry will look like, man, I should have hit the home run on this head coach hire this year. Because Mike McCarthy, if he is a Chicago Bear, he will lead the Bears to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good one. Here's why I say Mike McCarthy to the Jags and the Bears is open, because I think Kliff Kingsbury is a coach that would go to the Bears because of Caleb Williams. Yeah,
the exact opposite.
Exactly. But here's my logic to it. I think Kliff Kingsbury, what he's done with Jaden Daniels, just shows that, like, hey, look, he is a good coach in the NFL, because there's a bunch of question marks when he was in, Arizona with Kyler Murray. But I think now we're seeing that, like, okay, look, Kingsbury's learned his lesson from Arizona. Also, Kyler Murray is kind of like a different player altogether, so maybe that was more Kyler than it was Kingsbury. But you give Kingsbury this really young quarterback, and maybe he can get the most out of him when it comes to play calling and developing. I think Kingsbury going to Chicago would be beneficial, but I think the line of order like that you've given with, Kingsbury to Jaguars and McCarthy to the Bears is probably more accurate. At least all the reports I'm seeing, it's more than likely going to happen in that former fashion. But I did want to ask you, though, and it's kind of popped in my head as we were kind of talking, and I think you and I both agree that what's difficult about the Cowboys coaching job is they're going to have to report to Jerry. And, they also kind of have a roster that's got like some cap issues, and you got to inherit a quarterback that's the highest paying. So who's willing to accept it? So I'm curious. This is a name that popped in my head, and I'm curious if you would be okay with this or why you would not subscribe to it. John Gruden.
No.
Oh, that was quick. Tell me why. I got to hear this.
Aren't you a Raiders fan? Don't you know the John Gruden story? I don't know if we have enough time. I could totally see John Gruden just because of gosh, do you know what John Gruden did this past year? He was a advisor for a European League football team.
Okay.
The Milano Seamen. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That is what he spent his 2024 doing. That is a real football team, by the way. There's a couple reasons why. One, there has been no coach in the NFL to win a Super Bowl with two different franchises. John Gruden fits that bill. So did Mike McCarthy. But I wouldn't feel good about John Gruden. He hasn't been a head coach since 2021, since all the stuff happened with the controversy in his second stint with the Raiders. It ended pretty badly because of, racist
and misogynistic,
all the things. I'm not even going to go into it because it's kind of detestable a little bit.
Yeah.
I would feel really bad about John Gruden coming in. I don't know if it would be a player coach type of move. When you want to re-sign Micah Parsons, it would be a tough sell. But I know we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but Dallas can get out of a lot of this cap issues by I saw if they restructure Dak's contract, if they restructure CeeDee Lamb's contract, and they designate Terrence Steele, who struggled this year on the offensive line, as a post June 1st cut, like they automatically like free up like $90 million in cap space.
I can see them doing that.
That would be huge.
That would change a lot.
But they don't spend in free agency, so it doesn't matter anyways. It's okay. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
I just had to throw that out there. I was curious only because like the only coach that I can see that could kind of rival, the personality of Jerry Jones would be John Gruden, because John Gruden tells the story that Jerry Jones looked up to Al Davis, and Al Davis was in love with John Gruden, which is why he got hired in the first stint. Also, too, a little bit questionable how much he loved him after he traded him to the Buccaneers, but that's another story for another day. But all right, so let's get through some divisional round playoffs, because I got questions I still got to ask you, and we are just eating up time right now. So, Michael, we're going to go through divisional rounds. I'm going to give you a team. Just give me who you think is going to come out on top on this one, okay? So we got Texans going to Kansas. And so this is a big test for the Chiefs coming off of a bye week. Let's see how ready they are to three-peat. Who do you got in this game?
Pretty obvious right here. It's Kansas City. I didn't think Houston was going to beat the Chargers, but Justin Herbert, thanks for proving me wrong. Guys, it's over. I mean, you can basically, like, it doesn't matter if I get the other 3 games right, because Kansas City's three-peating. It's like the team who won a lot of one-score games, people were making fun of them for, and Kansas City was like, we got practice, baby, and we got 2 more rings to prove it, and they're going to get 1 more. It's the easiest decision I've ever had to make. I think Chiefs. I would say Chiefs by 20. I feel that confident, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Chiefs by 1 score. You know why? Because they can do it.
That's a good one. I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. I'm curious, though, with how the defense played with the Texans, if that will show up as well, because that could change some things. But I do think that the Chiefs, they are motivated now. We're in their new season where they're really fighting for now that 3rd Super Bowl. They're going to three-peat, just like you and I have three-peated. So, all right, Rams going to Philly. Who do you got in this one? And I will say weather forecast is suggesting Philly will have snow during the game. So does that change your pick with whoever you choose?
Now, obviously, I'm rooting for the Rams. This is Philadelphia. I mean, LA is used to like playing in LA. Like they are playing in really great weather. Matthew Stafford used to play in Detroit too, so he always had an indoor stadium, and he would struggle in cold weather games. Philadelphia, they just have all the pieces defensively. They have Saquon Barkley, who should have had a chance at the rushing record this year. Jalen Hurts looks healthy. They have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. It's not going to be a big like air attack game, especially if it's snowing. So I'm taking the better run team, and I trust Philadelphia to get 10 yards on 4 rushes more than I do the LA Rams getting anything in 4.
I will say this is what's difficult. The Rams, I think, are underrated now that they're healthy. I think people are forgetting when they came into the season, they were NFC like contenders in terms of the preseason and projections. And I think now that they are all kind of healthy and bringing it all together, I think the Philadelphia Eagles should be on upset alert. So I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say, as my daughter runs in the camera, I'm going to go on a limb and say that the Rams are going to upset Philadelphia just because Matthew Stafford with the weapons. I do think Karen Williams rushes a lot, but I just don't like how Philadelphia offensively played in their last game. That really concerns me. And I think the Rams have an opportunity here to upset. Maybe not even an upset, because realistically, they're the ones that went to the Super Bowl and won, where the Eagles did not. So we'll see. All right. Baltimore going to Buffalo. Who do you got, Mike?
This is the tough one.
Yeah.
This is the coin flip. Buffalo, I feel like I always underestimate Buffalo, and then Josh Allen makes plays with his legs. James Cook is a huge factor now, but Amari Cooper has been not Amari Cooper. I don't know if it's learning the new system. I don't know if it's learning routes. I don't know what. But he and Josh Allen just don't have the chemistry like Amari's had with other quarterbacks. Baltimore, this is what I was telling people. Baltimore's recipe was to get Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson to the playoffs healthy. And the rest is history. Because I think the only team that really could stop Baltimore is Baltimore or Kansas City. They're either going to stop themselves or they're going to run into the Chiefs. And so for me, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, they're just unbeatable. It'll be Baltimore winning.
Every year I've basically said that Baltimore is on the cusp of cutting through. And I've also said that Buffalo is a team that they always look like they're the most ready team, and then they falter when it matters the most. For me, I think I trust the Buffalo Bills just because this year they feel like they're ready to break through that barricade that's been holding them back. And here's my thing. In Buffalo, in the snow, I think it is a huge advantage to Buffalo, even though Baltimore is in an area that does experience snow. I'm not trying to say that they won't be prepared, but with how cold it gets and getting hit that often, especially in that cold weather, I think it is going to affect, Derrick Henry. It's going to affect Lamar. Is Zay Flowers going to be ready to go by then? I think with the weapons and Josh Allen, I think they are just so motivated to where it may not be like a blowout, but I do think that the Bills just come out on top, and I trust their defense a little bit more than Baltimore. I have questions about Baltimore's secondary. So I think that the Bills, this is their time to really push forward, because I'm really counting on a Chiefs and Bills AFC championship, because I do want to see if the Bills can actually topple over the Chiefs, or if the Chiefs are just going to big brother the Bills all over again. But that doesn't happen if the Bills don't take care of business. But I trust that the Bills will take care of business. And Jason looks like is siding with me as well for that one. All right, final game, Michael. Commanders going to Detroit. Do you think Commanders here upset the Lions?
So this is a very interesting game for me for several reasons. One, you have the Washington Commanders, who have a rookie quarterback. They have a head coach who, can fumble away some games, especially in the postseason. Talking about 28-3 against the Patriots, that lead in the Super Bowl. You're also talking last year's atrocity against the Green Bay Packers. Then you have Detroit, who is at home. Their only two losses have been at home, by the way. They're without Kevin Zeitler in this game. And if you're looking at what the Detroit Lions have right now, we talked about it. Ben Johnson looking towards his future. Aaron Glenn looking towards his future. Do either of those coaches start looking a little too far ahead? And that's where I think it could hurt them. They have that bye week, and the head coach or the coordinators are already looking to be a head coach in the NFL. So it's tricky because you can either see a rookie quarterback falter, but I am going to go ahead and pick the upset. Who knows if I'll feel the same way tomorrow on Out of Pocket?
Sure.
But as of now, my gut is telling me Washington wins this. And I hate that as a Cowboys fan, because that means if Washington wins and Philly wins, that means one of my rivals are in the Super Bowl. I just feel like Detroit is going to just lose it. And I don't trust Dan Campbell as much as many other people do, because gambling comes with high risk and high reward, and he might be left with no reward.
Yeah, Jason here says that Campbell will go for it on fourth down at least 3 times. Yeah, that's actually probably an under number. He'll probably do it more. Here's the thing. I totally agree that I think that it's not, I wouldn't call it a distraction, but I think a lot of the news behind Aaron Glenn getting a bunch of interviews, Ben Johnson as well. They will not be returning onto the team. I think that's a foregone conclusion. They all kind of know this. I think the last team, though, that kind of experienced this where all their coordinators were about to be hired by a bunch of other teams was the Philadelphia Eagles the year that they went to the Super Bowl. And then, as everyone knows, the following year, they crumbled because they didn't have the coordinators that they'd had for previous years. And it was just a huge adjustment. I think with David Montgomery coming back into this game, so there's that 1-2 Sonic and Knuckles again, along with Amon St. Brown, Williams, which I think is huge, Sam Laporta, the defense. I don't think they're going to shut out the Commanders by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think Aaron Glenn could dial up something that can put a little bit of a pause on Daniels just, carving up the Lions like he did against, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Lions here will come in more prepared. I think the week off, I think we'll see rust, but I think what'll happen is as the game carries on and the Lions kind of get into their groove, I think that they will come out on top. But I do think the Commanders will push them to the brink of elimination. I'm not trying to say that the Lions are going to beat them by 3 scores or anything, but I do think Commanders may get close, like within a field goal, maybe lose by less than a touchdown. But I do think that the Lions are going to be on their heels because, like what you said, the bye week is going to kind of come into effect. All the interviews and kind of the distraction behind the coordinators not being there, I think that does play a factor. But Detroit is so strong in Detroit itself. It's really hard to bet against them. So I'm going to go Lions. As you say, Commanders. We'll see what you say tomorrow on your show. And we'll hold you to whatever you say tomorrow. So we'll do that.
All right. I have 24 hours to change my opinion.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So we're just about towards the tail end of the show. I've got a couple of additional questions for you, kind of open up a little bit as I kind of always do with you on every show. And a little bit behind the scenes, since you and I have kind of collaborated since, I want to say October timeframe, when you invited me on, you've come on Drew Code a bunch of times, and you and I have created this, healthy kind of friendship through texting. And now we've sent each other voice notes every now and again. Well, actually, they're almost every day now. But, we've gotten this good rapport going here. And I was curious because the last time you were on the show was just before Christmas. And you told me about your favorite Christmas gift that you had received. But I'm wondering if in the time of Christmas in the history of Michael Davis, or that you can recall, was there a favorite Christmas gift that you gave, whether it be this year or previous years? And if there is one, do you mind sharing it with us?
Oh man. Christmas gift. Dude, that is tough. I'll be honest, there's one gift like that's coming to my mind right now. But it's one I gave this year.
Okay.
So because there's a story behind it, don't want to go into like too much detail, but I had found this like gift online, scrolling through Facebook, and I'm in a relationship now, so I'm like, always look for the aha gift. Like that's how I shop every time. Like I'll usually go to the mall like a week before and I'll shop and I'll look around. I'll be like, aha, that screams that person. I'll get it. But I had that moment on just scrolling through Facebook and I immediately like went and purchased it. Right. And I was just like, great. And dude, like few weeks go by and I'm like, I haven't heard anything. And I like reach out to this company and they're like, yeah, we can't guarantee that it will be here before Christmas. Cause I ordered it like the first week of December and they were telling me it was going to be like mid-January before I get it, because they apparently had made it, but we're waiting to ship it out because of like company policy.
Oh, wow.
I was like, bro, like, dude, I was like, and now I'm like, oh, I'm, cause this was for my partner and I wasn't able to give them like a Christmas gift. So like now I'm like scrambling like around town trying to find something. Cause I'm not ordering anything online a week out anymore. So it was like a done deal at that point. Well, I get a couple other gifts and I give them to her. And it was about a week later that or maybe even a little less than a week, that the actual gift came. And it was this personalized journal that I was like, it really like just screamed like her. And I was like, dude, it was so cool. Like, cause there was a lot of doubt, dude. There was a lot of doubt they would actually come. And I was like, how am I going to get my money back? Did my card get hacked? Like, I was thinking all these things. And the fact that I was like, oh, I finally laid hands on it and I could see it. And I was like, it turned out really well. And I was able to, give it to her a few days after Christmas, albeit, but that was the first thing that came to my mind. Especially now that I'm older and I can like afford to like give people gifts.
Yeah.
I personally thought that was really special.
That's cool. So when you finally got it, I'm sure you were super relieved and excited. So what was her reaction when you were able to like give it to her? And do you know if she's like using it now or?
Yeah. I believe she's using it. I would hope so.
The stress of it not showing up. I hope she does.
For real, right? Yeah, dude, I think her reaction was worth it. Her reaction was worth it. And it meant a lot, like I need to work a little bit better on like my delivery or presentation with like gifts like that. But when it finally came, dude, I didn't even like wrap it in Christmas paper. I mean, I just literally like threw it in Walmart bags and just like had her unwrap that. But no, it was well worth it. Everything worked out.
It always does, right? It always works out at the end. So curious now that you mentioned that obviously you've got a partner now, there's a couple questions that come to mind. And I've asked this to my wife. We have this debate of who would rather do something like cooking and cleaning, for example. So we cook pretty often in the house, I'd like to think, but I'm someone that has done dishes because it was like one of the first jobs I ever did was dishwashing. So if someone cooked, I will do the dishes happily because I've done it like a million times over and I can do it with my eyes closed. Are you a person that'd rather cook the meal or do the dishes?
I think I would answer for anybody who would eat a meal that I cook. I would much rather do the dishes, and that should be your answer too if you had to give me the choice. No, I've actually helped with dishes a couple times, so
okay.
That's been a thing. But I will say, hopefully she's not listening, so she wouldn't get a big head. But she's not into sports anyway, so I doubt that. I will say, like, the meals she's cooked so far, bussin', like, for real, no cap. Rolling the house, if you cook, the other one does the dishes.
You know what?
I'll gladly do the dishes, especially if there's a dishwasher.
Here's my only caveat. So, Michael, this will strike you as funny. When I was growing up, and my mom's rule was, if I cooked or if you cooked, then you also cleaned up your mess. Like, you got to clean up the counter and then you got to wash, your cooking pan or whatever. But here's the thing that she got away with, my mother, is she would have paper plates. So we threw away paper plates. So all the dishes were what I used because we didn't use like regular plates or whatever. So then that was like almost like I got you on this one. Like, yeah, you can cook and you just clean up after yourself. Oh, but we have paper plates. So I don't have to do these dishes because we're throwing these ones away. So yeah, so I got stiffed a couple of times. But that's really cool, man. So I'm glad that she did enjoy that. I got a kind of a podcasting question for you. Is there a sports podcaster who you've been like following or like admiring that you're kind of like hoping to like invite onto Boom Broadcast?
Bro, I had an answer for that question 3 months ago, but I got you.
Okay.
Like, dude, I'm not even kidding. I am not even kidding. Like, straight up, I think we like ended up being in the same fantasy football league.
Yeah, funny with Darian, I think with D-Hop. Yes, he had a fantasy league. He needed extra spots. I was like, I'll join. And I think, I had no idea that we were in the same league until like we had a matchup with each other like a week after we did a show together.
Yeah. And so I was like, maybe that was how, but like, when you like and comment and engage, like it helps with the algorithm to like get things seen. So I think we were like liking the same things.
Oh yeah.
That's how I found one of your reels. And I was like, dude, this guy's really well spoken. Dude, just through your reels, I was like, Drew Code, and you'll think this is funny. I was like, who is Drew and who is Cody? for like the first like week. And then like once reaching out to you, I was like, okay, I mean, I'm good with either one. And then you and I have been able to contact and get connected and stuff. And yeah, you were my answer, like straight up. No lie. I would tell you if I was lying.
Okay.
So now I gotta branch out a little bit and see. Maybe I'll go back to that fantasy football league and see if there's people I want to collaborate with. But yeah, I need to make my new wish list. I had one last year as I was slowly getting back healthy and getting into the podcast world. So maybe I need to create a new one. I do want Drew on. I want Drew on out of the pocket.
I'm telling you right now, like, I can't tell you how many times, because him and I, Marco Polo, almost every single morning. And I told you this, Marco Polo, and I didn't even realize this, that we've been using that app for 10 years. Because when we first started, it was 2015. And as of 2025, we're still using it. I literally got a polo from him before we started recording, and I need to watch it. But him and I have been doing that. And dude, anytime like we bring up Drew Code and like your schedule kind of aligns and I'm like, there's an opportunity, I go, Drew, man, we got to find a way to either get on Boom or we got to find a way for Michael to come on at the same time. And here's what's tough is because he has committed to Sanger West, which is the high school he is doing his thing at, and he's being a coach. And also too, what I'm not willing to do is like guilt him into not going to doing a show. Because I, as much as I would love for Drew Code to like be this mecca of a thing, and I'd love to have him on every single week, just like what we're kind of doing. It's kind of like our thing. I also feel like a responsibility to make sure that I do it as best I can to where it's his favorite podcast, so to speak, to like make sure that I do him proud. But because I know how much time he devotes to everything else that's not himself, I feel so bad for even saying, hey, dude, do you want to record when he hasn't even been home for more than a few hours to see his wife or his kids. And, I'm really close with his family. I'm really close with him. And so I feel really guilty when like, all right, we have an opportunity. And then like, I'll say, hey, dude, if you want to jump on, come on. And he's like, I can't, man. I got school or I've got coaching. And I'm like, okay, cool. And there are sometimes where like, I may not even bring up the subject because I know he's already in over his head and I'll just touch base with him another time. Because even on the holiday season, I was like, dude, we're going to get Drew on. And I kid you not, dude, we had 4 weeks to do this. He was only open for 2 days to record. And it was only from like this short window. And that's just how his life is. And I care about him so much that I don't want to like, interject into it too much. But I promise you one day it will be Drew and Code with Michael one day. It's just it's just going to be a long road till we get there, but we will get there, man. And I know
we'll speak it into existence.
It's going to happen. I guarantee it will happen. It's just how quickly can it happen is the question. But I know it is absolutely going to happen. But by the way, dude, I am really humbled by the comment. I was not throwing that up as a fishing for like you to like say anything in kind remark. And I'm very gracious with that, that comment. You did not have to supply that to me. I'm in awe of that. Cause I'm like, dude, we don't really do anything. You can more than welcome, like, DM me if you wanted to. And the fact that I was kind of like on your radar and that was your answer, that's really humbling, dude. I'm really thankful for that.
If you go back to like our DMs, like you could probably like read my excitement, but honestly, like your first appearance, like if you went back and listened and like how I'm introducing you and stuff, dude, I was so nervous. I feel like there was also like some tech issues at one point. No, here's what it was. I invited you on the first time. I was like tripping up over my words, like straight up.
Sure.
I was like nervous. I was like, dude, I'm not trying to like be a people pleaser, but I was like, dude, this is like, I was really happy. I'll be honest.
Well, I'll be completely honest with you. When I was invited, obviously I was really flattered because the fact that people take time to invite you into their like space and, again, they're going to ask for your opinion. That's like kind of humbling in and of itself. Like, I don't know why people think I have anything profound to say, but when I would get your notes and you do like Google Docs, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's so much more organized. Drew and I just like text each other on notes and just like, whatever. And then like when you came on Drew Code the first time and I was like, okay, I got to be super professional because he's super professional. So it's kind of funny how I was like trying to like, okay, I got to make sure that like it's all, it all works out. And I think the way that you and I broke the ice like kind of offline was like talking shop of like, dude, like what's your like the thing that you hate about content creating. You're like, oh, dude, negative comments suck. And so we kind of bonded from there. But yeah, that's really cool. We do need to update your list. I'm going to say we need to get you like on a high profile, like Cowboys podcast or something. That would be the goal. We got to get Boom out there to the nation. So
I would love that. I'm open to it. So if you're a content creator, hit one of us up.
Yeah, or both. That's totally fine. All right. I got a last one though. And this is more because what I have done is I have actually watched a couple of your behind the mic shows. And I've even texted you this, that I find them really appealing because like it's different to be vulnerable. And I don't think a lot of people do that. And especially in sports spaces, it's like a lot of that stuff is kind of left out. So the fact that you give another layer to like what you offer, I think is really cool. So this one is just kind of more selfishly, I'm asking this, but is there like an episode or a topic of behind the mic that you've been wanting to make, but either you're too nervous to make it or you're kind of just like not sure if you're ready to make it?
Yeah, that is definitely like one of the more vulnerable podcasts. One of the most vulnerable ones I've done was about my health that I recorded and got to release about a year from actually going into the hospital around my birthday. When it comes to probably just like episodes I've been a little thinking on, probably just a current situation of mine in terms of like jobs and employment, especially like since it's it's fresh and it's like right now, is one of the things, and then of course like just being in a new season of being in a relationship, which is fantastic, dude. Like, dude, I'll be honest, like, I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
It's really great, but like feeling like, are you really going to like put, stuff out there and like have other people? Cause yeah, there are negative comments with a lot of stuff. And that's one of the things I hate about content creation. If you go on Twitter, it's been there. If you go on Facebook, it's been there. So, that is a podcast designed for being more vulnerable. It just depends on like, when's a good time to talk about that stuff, if ever, like I could totally see that podcast in 5 to 10 years. Like, if I get married one day and, if I have kids and then like turning that into a, hey, if you were dating someone, like something to where I can reflect in the past and like give advice, rather than like trying to give advice to somebody who's in the same season as I am. And it's like, how maybe I need the advice.
Sure. Well, it's also kind of a cool, like, if you did, like, I'm not sure how often you do it. I'm sure it's like whenever you're feeling like led to do so, or like whenever topic presents itself that maybe you feel the need that like, okay, I think it's time for me to talk about this topic or whatever it's on your mind. It's also kind of like a journal type of situation where like that's what you were thinking of in that season. And then, as you mentioned, like maybe for your future self, you look back on it and like, oh man, I did come a long way. And who knows, like, if your kids are old enough to ever listen back to it, or, if your partner ever wanted to know who you were prior to meeting you, they, could listen to that and kind of know who you were before then to understand like maybe your thought process and stuff like that. Cause it is hard to be vulnerable, man. And I commend it. And that's why I'm curious, like if there's a topic that like, that presents itself that like, maybe you're nervous to talk about just because it's, again, being vulnerable is very scary. So it's very commendable that you do it. So I appreciate you giving me that answer.
And it's funny you bring that up, like, cause I did find out that, my partner had, watched a couple of those episodes before we ever like, started dating or whatever. And when she told me like the 2 episodes she watched, I was like, those were the 2 most vulnerable ones. It was about my health and everything I went through with the ulcer. And I think she listened to the body image or insecurities one. And I was like, oh, wow, that's like, those are like the 2 like hardest topics to talk about, record, release to people. So it's really cool that they listen to those 2 and it's like, oh wow, that means a lot, because now that opens up the door. And another reason I do it is like I've received like text messages or DMs based on like those episodes and it resonating with people. So
cool.
Yeah, like it would be so cool to like have that virtual journal, if you will. That's why I do Dad and the Boys with my dad, because I know like in 30, 40, 50 years, if he passes away, like I'll be able to look back at those videos and show like my kids or grandkids, like, hey, if YouTube still exists, and if not, I've got it backed up. Here's something that, me and my dad did, and, giving them a little bit of a connection point. So I'm glad technology is where it is now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really appreciate that answer. And Michael, I think that's the show, man. I can't thank you enough for hopping on and, sharing all that info and sharing what's been going on in Boom and within your life. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please tell everyone where they can find you if they don't already, and plug away whatever you got cooking in the oven so people know what to expect.
Yeah, so that's my X on the screen, B_Michael Davis, because everyone wants to be Michael Davis. He mentioned Boom Broadcasting. I have shows on there. A lot of other people do. It's a huge team. Cody was on Out of Pocket today, talking some NFL, talking the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford trade. So it was awesome having him on. There's a lot of other podcasts I mentioned at the beginning of this stream. I also am a writer for Fans First Sports Network at fansfirstsports.com. So I drop NFL, NBA, wrestling articles all the time. So go see those. But yeah, that's where you can find me if you want to subscribe to Boom. We're not far away from 500 subscribers. So any subscriber helps, and it just shows appreciation, not only for me, but the rest of the team who put a lot of hard work in, and guys like Cody, who is willing to come on and, be a guest on a show or, share a link. I'm really appreciative that you would have me on here. And I'm sure we'll send a few voice messages after we get off here.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's almost a requirement now. But yeah, so if anyone's interested in keeping up with Michael, Boom Broadcasting, especially all the shows that he has, I will have all the links down in the YouTube video that you guys are watching on. I will have it when we post audio. I'll have all the links on there as well. Also check out our Instagram, or at least our Drew Code one, because I try to cycle through like all the articles that Michael puts out on Fan First, which are very well done. I gave him I thought a pretty good compliment on like how well structured it is, and it's an easy read. So it's not anything crazy, but he is doing a lot behind the scenes, you guys, for Boom. And it's a fun growing channel, and help them get to 500 by subscribing to their channel, and also to subscribe to Drew Code. So maybe one day we can be on Boom's level. And hopefully we'll be able to, share in that monumental milestone as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, watching, listening, however you guys found us or watched us. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next time. Be well, one another, and we will see you. Hey, man, hell of a show, huh?
Dude, that was fun.
Okay,
good. We're still live.
Oh, no. It says in stream.
It says live on my end.
Does it? Oh.